Interesting. Time for meditation, reflection, tolerance and acceptance. On the birthday of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, well, a few days later, but he had his birthday, I believe, on the 6th of July. So Dalai Lama, I used to live next door to him for 7 years in India, in Dharamsala, McLeodganj. I lived opposite of the Tsuklakang, the Dalai Lama temple, and his private residence, which was donated to him by the local grocer store manager, owner, Mr. Noroji. Had a little shop in the 1950s in McLeodganj, and in 1959 the Dalai Lama fled to India from Tibet after the occupation of his homeland. And after a year, first he went to Dehradun, and then after a year Mr. Noroji said, here in McLeodganj, I was just building a small house for myself, but I'm going to donate that to the Dalai Lama. That was in 1959. And the Dalai Lama accepted that offer. So that is the reason why the Dalai Lama lives in McLeodganj, Dharamsala in North India, because of the grocer, Mr. Noroji, donating his house to His Holiness. So that was in 1959, and I moved to Dharamsala, McLeodganj in 2000, and I left at the end of 2006 after nearly 7 years living in that village, and His Holiness was my teacher. I was suffering from a depression when I traveled through India. Then I met the Dalai Lama at his home. I became friends with his chief security officer, Mr. Loyonla, and Mr. Loyonla and I worked together on publishing his memoirs, The Fire of Hell, My Life Under Chinese Rule. And that's how I became friends with the inner circle of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and that is how I would sometimes meet the Dalai Lama. That was a very special period in my life, and I'm very pleased to read in the Times of India that His Holiness has decided to come back after his death. He's 90 now, and he has decided to return, and his next incarnation will be outside of Tibet because of the Chinese government, who has their own plan to select a puppet Dalai Lama who works for the Chinese government. So the Dalai Lama said, my foundation, who is registered in Switzerland, they will go and launch a search party for the next Dalai Lama, the 15th Dalai Lama. And he also said that it might be very well possible that the next Dalai Lama will be a woman, which I think is a great idea. I once jokingly told him that a female Dalai Lama would should be called Dalailet. The Dalailet, the 15th Dalailet of Tibet. The 15th Dalailet of Tibet. Because there's no name for a female Dalai Lama. Lama is male. And there are no female lamas, there are nuns. So if there's a female Dalai Lama, I would say call her a Dalailet, the 15th Dalailet. So this is my little contribution, little teaching on Tibetan culture and history. that was the whole purpose for me to move to Asia, to learn from His Holiness the Dalai Lama, to find happiness during my depression. And so I traveled to India, buying some books, The Art of Happiness and Mindfulness, and some books of the Dalai Lama. I thought, I might as well travel to India. And then while I was in McLeodganj, I thought, this is a lovely village. I might as well stay here for the rest of my trip, like 2 months. And halfway, I think after a couple of weeks, I already decided I want to stay here at least a year. And that's what I did. 1 year became 2 years, and 2 years became 3 years. And then after nearly 7 years, I decided that I was done. I've reached my goal, and it was time for a new chapter in my life. And then I moved to Bangkok in Thailand. And that was also a very good experience. So, okay, signing off from Kikiyaya today. Thank you for watching. This is Veronique Renard, also known as Pantau, Pantau. That's my Asian name. Pantau is the name that His Holiness the Dalai Lama gave to me because he couldn't remember my French name. Even though I'm Dutch, I do carry a French name because of my French ancestors, Véronique Françoise Caroline Le Renard de Loiret, the 24th Marquise de Loiret. But I was born in the Netherlands, and His Holiness couldn't remember my name, and he has a little box with cards that have names on them, Tibetan names, and he pulled out a card. And he says, I'm going to give you a Tibetan name. So he got the box, opened the box, pulled out a card, and it said Pentop. That's how it's pronounced in Roman Latin. I would write that as Pantau, Pantau. And it was a name that people in India could remember very easily, because Tao and Pantau, it's easy for them to remember. It's also easy to remember in Thailand. So in Thailand, people would call me Pantau or Tao. And and I'm still Pantau. It's also the title of the book that I published about my first year in Dharamsala, Pantau in India, which became an international bestseller. I wrote it in English. It's also been published in Dutch in the Netherlands and Belgium. It's a long time ago, 25 years ago. Pantau, and now it's Pantau in Cambodia, Pantau in Kampot.